Hi, students. Today we are going to read a story called Life on the Ice, and this is in your Journeys textbook. So go ahead and get your Journeys book and turn to page 169. You can go ahead and pause this video until you have that. Okay, perfect. So now that you have your textbook and you're on page 169, we're going to read our lesson story for the week, and this is lesson 20, and it's Life on the Ice. The top and the bottom of our planet are covered with ice. The top, the Arctic, is home to the North Pole. It can be so cold that a cup of hot water thrown in the air will explode into a cloud of ice particles. And this caption here, it says, the North Pole is located in the middle of the Arctic Ocean and is usually covered by ice. I feel like this story is perfect this week because it is so cold outside. The South Pole is at the bottom of our planet on the continent of Antarctica. This region or area is even colder than the Arctic, sometimes plunging to negative 125 degrees Fahrenheit. In winter, parts of the ocean surrounding Antarctica freeze over, doubling its size. Antarctica is the coldest, driest, windiest place on Earth. It is so isolated that no human had even seen this continent until 200 years ago. So we have this caption here that will tell us about this picture. It says the ice covering Antarctica contains about 70% of the world's fresh water. So we all know that there's two kinds of water. There's fresh water and salt water, which is in oceans. But the ice that is in Antarctica and that's covering it, like all of the icebergs, is actually made of fresh water. Places this cold, this extreme, are hard to imagine. In fall, the sun sets and doesn't rise again for the entire winter. Months later, it shines 24 hours a day, all summer long. Even though they are covered by ice, these regions are deserts, dry like the Sahara. Very little snow falls in either place, but when it does, it rarely melts. Over time, the snow becomes ice, in some places almost 3 miles thick. Wow. This caption says, icebergs can be as small as a piano or larger than a small country. This ice is slowly moving, inching from the middle of the Arctic and Antarctica to their coasts. By the time pieces break off into the ocean and become icebergs, the ice is 100,000 years old. People fly thousands of miles to reach the poles, and when the winds kick up and blow the snow around, it's hard to know where the sky ends and the land begins. Pilots say that it's like flying inside of a ping pong ball. Many of the instruments normally used to guide planes won't work there. In fact, navigators flying to the poles are the only ones left in the US Air Force who still help map their route with the stars. This is some of the hardest flying there is. Planes do not land in these wintry worlds by rolling down concrete runways. They use skis instead, and they slide like giant sleds until they stop. Gliding along, the skis get so hot that they melt the snow they're resting on. Pilots must pull them up when the planes stop. Otherwise, the wet snow would refreeze in the skis and the planes would be stuck to the ground. So this caption says, when pilots land at the South Pole, they keep their engines running. It's so cold they might not start up again. Wow. I would actually really love to visit Antarctica, so I would love to visit the South Pole. It sounds like an adventure story, doesn't it? It is an adventure story, one with science. Scientists are today's explorers, braving the wilderness to learn about our world. The snow near the North Pole, for example, hasn't melted since the last ice age. Over 100,000 years of it has been pressed into an ice sheet almost 2 miles thick. But each layer looks separate, like the rings of a tree. So if you didn't know, you can actually tell the age of a tree by looking at its rings if you cut the trunk off. It's very interesting. So this is saying that you can kind of do the same thing with ice. Some scientists use this snow to measure air pollution. Others are drilling through this ice to pull out our history. Each sample they bring up tells a story about the time when it was formed. Scientists have found volcanic ash from Italy's Mount Vesuvius, for instance, and pollution from ancient Roman times. Scientists began this experiment to learn more about how ice ages begin and end. Before, they never thought our climate needed thousands of years to change. Now they know it can happen much, much faster. At the South Pole, some scientists search for meteorites, rocks from outer space. Meteorites are no more likely to fall there than anywhere else on Earth. But as one scientist explains, if you want to find something dark, it's easier to look on a big white sheet. His team has given thousands of meteorites to our space agency, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, which is also known as NASA, for study. The Antarctic sky is a perfect window to the stars, the best on this planet. It is very clear because it's so cold and dry, and it has a night that is 6 months long. Some scientists use telescopes to study the age of the universe. Others fly balloons to measure rays coming in from outer space. At the poles, people wear many layers of clothing to keep warmth in and wind out. They wear big boots and overalls called fat boy pants. Their mittens have furry backs to wipe their noses and warm their ears. They also wear goggles. Without them, their eyes would get sunburned and temporarily blinded by the strong light bouncing off the snow. So you've probably been driving at some point this year, and maybe you've driven on when it's a very sunny day, and all of the snow just is very, very bright, and it kind of hurts your eyes. Well, that is how it looks in Antarctica all of the time. So the scientists actually have to wear these goggles so their eyes don't get sunburned, because you don't just get sunburned when it's hot. You can also get sunburned when it's cold and when something is too bright. So this caption here, it says, "No wearing rings, earrings, or sunglasses with metal frames in the extreme cold. Metal gets so cold that it will freeze any skin that it touches." So these scientists, they can't wear jewelry, they cannot wear sunglasses, nothing with metal frames, or nothing with metal. All right, let's go to this page here. People who work at the poles must learn how to survive being stuck outdoors. On an unexpected camping trip, they first build a quick shelter to get out of the wind. Then they build a better one and pack it in closer to one another using body heat to stay warm. Building shelters, doing any work, is much harder in extreme cold. Mittens are very bulky, which means very big, and it's unsafe to go barehanded for long. Getting too cold is dangerous, but so is getting overheated. Sweat can freeze into a layer of ice next to your body. So the scientists have to be really careful not to get too cold, but they also want to make sure that they're not getting too hot from all of their snow gear. So this caption says, "The body is like a furnace that needs fuel to keep running. It works so hard to stay warm at the poles, and people end up eating at least twice as much food as usual." So the body just needs so much energy to keep itself warm that the people here that go here have to eat twice the amount of food. In summer, many people live at the science stations in the Arctic and Antarctica. They have a gym and videos and spend their spare time skiing on the icy runways. But mostly they work hard, getting as much done as possible while the weather is warm enough for planes to fly in and out. A few of them stay all winter long. Scientists say that summer's constant daylight tricks your body into wanting to keep going without rest. But in winter's endless darkness, you feel tired much of the time. One scientist even studies the people who winter over at the South Pole. He wants to know what kind of person works well in such a small, isolated group. Someday his findings may help pick the people to live in a colony on Mars. Wow, so they're studying who is able to live in those conditions when it is so cold and so dark all winter. And that's what a scientist wants to know, what kind of people can handle that. So that way, maybe someday they can pick people to live in a colony on Mars and see what that's like there. This caption says, unlike most refrigerators, the one containing fruit and vegetables at the South Pole is heated. Wow. Why do you think it's heated? I think it's probably heated because it's so cold there that they don't want to freeze the food. So that has to warm the refrigerators a little bit. In spring in Antarctica, the temperature finally climbs to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. So the plus just means that it's above the negative numbers. So just 10 degrees Fahrenheit, what it's been here for quite a while now. It's been pretty cold, but that's actually warm in Antarctica. And it's warm enough for planes to fly in again. The scientists are eager to get on board and return to the colors and smells of the green world. So what do you think the green world means? Now, the author uses the words green world to describe the other continents in our world, like North America, South America, Europe. So places like that. We live in North America, and places with grass and plants and life. So when you go to Antarctica or the Arctic, it's all just white. So the scientists are very eager or excited to get back to the regular world that they know. Once they buckle up, there is one last frosty problem to solve. The airplane must go 100 miles per hour to take off. No easy task when sliding over ice. Sometimes pilots must travel 2 miles to reach that speed, and sometimes they need extra help. Then they turn to the 8 rockets attached to their plane. A flick of the switch, a burst of flames and speed, and they are on their way home. And that is the end of our story today. I hope you enjoyed this story called Life on the Ice. I have to say, it's one of my favorite stories from Journeys in the whole year, just because I think it's really interesting learning about Antarctica, and I would actually really love to go there someday. So maybe you also think it's interesting, and I hope you enjoyed this story. So I will talk to you all next time, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.